Ghana earns bronze in CC squash women's doubles. Tristan Joseph will have the details later on. This is our Tuesday, July 24 edition of the NCN News. I am Leron Brummel. Thank you for joining us. To our top story. The police have been commended for their bravery in bringing down 5 men who tried to force their way into a home at Turk and Patton's this morning. 3 of the 5 men who were reportedly targeting a safe in the house have since been identified as men with criminal records. Nacasia Logan reports.
Among the dead are Timothy St. Hill, who was charged with several crimes and served time in prison between 2015 and 2018. Taxi driver 31-year-old Levi Bravitt of Layu Street, North Rheinveld, who was arrested for armed robbery in 2017, and Andre Daly, who had been arrested for break and entering and larceny. The other 2 have been identified as Eon Peter Ford and Jermaine Dubé. It was just after midnight that the men tried to break and enter the house next door to Movie Town by using a crowbar and a nipper. However, the caretaker, who was at home with his family, called 911, indicating that there was loud breaking sounds coming from the yard. Acting Police Commissioner David Rabnarine said an anti-crime patrol from C Division teamed up with plainclothes ranks from headquarters who were at the time in this fire area and promptly responded.
As they arrived at the location, quite cautiously and tactically, 2 men were seen in the yard of the premises with rifles. Police challenged them. The men opened fire on the police, who returned fire. Both men fell. A 3rd man who was in the premises ran out from it and was caught in that exchange of gunfire, and he collapsed on the ground. Seconds after, a white motor car drove up. 2 occupants, 2 males, exited and opened fire on the police. Police took cover and returned fire. Both males fell.
According to the police, after the shooting subsided, Timothy St. Hill and Levi were identified as the ones in the car, next to which an AK-47 rifle and 2 taped magazines with a number of live rounds were found. In addition, 2 rifles were found next to Daly and Dubé. Police also recovered 3 cell phones, a pair of gloves, 2 crowbars, a hacksaw, 4 warheads, a nipper, pair of slippers, a white ROM bearing registration plate HC 4195 used by the bandits were also taken away from the scene. 24 spent shells of 2 different calibers were also found at the scene. The shooting left the front of the building riddled with bullets. Ramnarine have since commended his ranks for their bravery in confronting and taking down the armed men.
I want to ensure that it is made clear that their bravery will not go unnoticed. It's highly commendable under fire. They did not back off. They did not retreat. In the name of law and order, in ensuring that public safety is assured.
The matter is currently being investigated by the Office of Professional Responsibility, as is customary when police are involved in a shooting. Nacasia Logan, NCN News.
Well, 2 have been fined millions and jailed for cocaine and cooking gasoline, and another is charged with the murder of a cook. Here again is Nacasia Logan with details from inside the courts.
Son of popular businessman Andre Zipper Gomes, who was recently freed on a drug trafficking matter, has been jailed. The 33-year-old Mark Gomes and his friend, Omar Mohammed Sharif Kadir, will spend the next 4 years and 6 months behind bars. In addition, Chief Magistrate Ann McLennan has ordered that they each pay a $6 million fine and that Gomes's car, PMM 5807, be handed over to the state, given the fact that it was used to commit a crime. The duo was nabbed with cocaine weighing 5 pounds during a sting operation back in April on Sheriff Street. The cocaine was found concealed in yellow shell gas cylinders. Ryan Fowler, the 3rd accused, who had pleaded guilty to the charge, began serving his 4-year sentence in early April. He too was ordered to pay a $6 million fine. And a minor was charged with the murder of a cook, 31-year-old Petal Hafiz of Lot 21 Sideline Dam, Virgin Hujan, East Bank, Essequibo, who was reported missing some weeks ago. The victim's burnt skeletal remains were discovered in a shallow grave on July 10 at Thomas Island, Puruni River. 38-year-old James Allen of Two Friends Village, East Coast, Demerara, appeared before Chief Magistrate Ann McLennan. The matter was indictable and he was not required to plead. The incident reportedly occurred between June 28 and July 8. Allen will make his next court appearance on August 16 at the Bartica Magistrates Court. Nagasia Logan, NCN News.
To other news now. Guyanese must have faith in the emerging oil and gas industry, so says country manager of ExxonMobil Rod Henson as he spoke on exploration efforts. Shanta Samuels has details.
Guyana could see the development of better roads, schools and hospitals with the revenues to be earned from continued exploration in the Stabroek Block by ExxonMobil. Exxon's country manager Rod Henson said the country's prospects in oil and gas resources continue to exceed their expectations. On Monday, the oil company announced that it has revised its estimate of discovered recoverable resources for the Stabroek Block offshore Guyana to more than 4 billion oil equivalent barrels. This figure previously stood at 3.2 billion oil equivalent barrels.
In fact, we see now, given the tremendous success and the potential here in Guyana, that there could be as many as 5 projects by 2025. So from a production standpoint, which turns into revenue and the resource that the government can use to generate projects, infrastructure, and whatnot, we see by 2025 that production could increase up to 750,000 barrels per oil per day.
Henson says he understands that there are still some skeptics out there and has urged that they exercise great patience and optimism.
Realize that this is going to be a long-term industry, decades and decades. There's no need to panic. Things are coming along very, very well, exactly as they should. So realize that things take time. There have been tremendous benefits already from a local content standpoint. We've generated over 500 new jobs, spent over $21 million injected into the economy. That's going to continue to improve.
Speaking specifically to the criticisms, Henson says a lot of it is due to a lack of information and in some cases misinformation. And it is for this reason that the company has increased its public awareness programs across the country to ensure that Guyanese are well educated on the industry. Meanwhile, commercial oil production at the Liza Phase 1 development is expected to commence in March 2020, and the company is currently examining permits for Liza Phase 2 development. It is also eyeing a third development for production in 2023. For the NCN News, Shanta Samuels.
Still with oil and gas, the University of Ghana has begun its search for staff for the Department of Petroleum and will be forming an association with the various technical institutes. These are all part of preparations for First Oil. Details from Arifa Bacchus.
In preparation for the oil and gas industry, the University of Guyana will be forming a consortium with the various technical institutes across Guyana. This was revealed by UG Vice Chancellor Professor Ivelaw Griffith.
Conscious of the reality that what is needed for the oil and gas and the allied sectors are not deliverable only in an educational context from the university, the technical institutes are critical. And so I extended the invitation, and we are going to be establishing, along with the technical institutes and the TVET, a consortium on energy and mining.
In the meantime, the hiring process for the university's petroleum department has commenced.
We're looking to fill positions in petroleum engineering, specializing in exploration and exploitation. We're looking for a petroleum geoscientist. We're looking for a petrophysicist. We're looking for a reservoir engineer. We're looking for a drilling and production specialists.
UG's Department of Petroleum and Geological Engineering in the Faculty of Engineering and Technology opens in January 2019. For the NCN News, Arifa Bacchus.
Away from oil and gas, Minister of Foreign Affairs Carl Granit says Ghana will not criminalize immigrants once they follow the legal procedures for entering the country. He was at the time responding to questions from the media about the influx of Venezuelans. Here are details.
Foreign Affairs Minister Carl Granit is urging persons coming across the border to use its lawful ports of entry. He said it is also important that they verify their points of exit and do not fall into a category that may be considered problematic.
Essentially, some common guidelines were put together, guidelines bearing in mind, one, you don't want to be providing arrangements that allow undesirables from the point of view of criminals, for example, terrorists and others, into the territory.
Questioned specifically about Venezuelans entering Guyana, Minister Granit said the region has adopted a posture of neither deporting nor imprisoning them for immigration infractions. In addition, he reminded the media of Guyana's obligation in handling immigrant matters.
The issue is to respect the Treaty of Chagaramas, so that if the treaty, as it does say, Caribbean citizens are entitled to entry in the first instance without undue barriers to stay for a period of 6 months, and then after that the immigration authorities may decide whether to extend it or to do anything else depending upon the intention of the migrant.
Minister Granit said persons entering the country must undergo a mini health check, which includes being vaccinated, and if they refuse, they will be asked to leave. He noted that Guyanese returning from the neighboring country will have to also prove their citizenship. A joint ministerial team made up of citizenship, immigration and health, along with authorities in Whitewater, Region 1 and other communities near Guyana's border with Venezuela, are actively monitoring the situation. For the NCN News, Shanza Samuels.
Meanwhile, the IMF says inflation in Venezuela could top 1 million% by year-end as the country's historic crisis deepens. Head of the IMF's Western Hemisphere Department, Alejandro Werner, said Venezuela's economic turmoil compares to Germany's after World War I and Zimbabwe's at the beginning of the last decade. The once wealthy oil-producing nation of Venezuela is in the grips of a 5-year crisis that has left many of its people struggling to find food and medicine while driving masses across the border for relief into neighboring countries. Shortages in electricity, domestic water and public transportation plague millions of Venezuelans who also have to benefit from the Education Ministry's technical vocational education training. Education Minister Nicolette Henry says this initiative is being funded by the Caribbean Development Bank. Here are details.
Which is the practical construction sectors and departments are established in the regions, and so we have undertaken to expand in regions 1, 7, 8 and 9. So that is something also that you will be part of the process as we roll those out in the respective regions.
Minister Henry said that the project represents her ministry's move to bridge the education gap between the hinterland and the coast. She acknowledged that teacher training is the bedrock of education delivery and assured that significant investments will be made to continue training. In February of this year, the ministry opened a teachers training facility in Paramakatoy Region 8 with an enrollment of 64.
I encourage you to ensure that in each of your communities, given that you now have access to teachers training in all of the communities, to ensure that teachers are enrolled in those programs and that you are preparing for teachers to ensure that education is appropriately delivered.
The Education Minister, who was speaking to Tushaus and senior councillors of indigenous communities, added that parental involvement is also a vital component of the education system. Tris Romalo for NCN News.
Now, a decision on the proposed name change of St. Cuthbert's Mission to Pakuri will be taken by the residents. So says Minister of Indigenous Peoples Affairs Sidney Alicock, who noted that the vote would be final.
Would take guidance from the majority of the people. We have already given them the opportunity to make a decision, so they are supposed to send back their results. So we'll take it from there when we get the results.
Last September, President David Granger announced that he had approved a name change of the village. However, at a meeting held at St. Cuthbert's Mission on June 3rd this year, to confirm the resolution, a group of residents indicated that they were not in favor of the name change. The Georgetown municipality wants certain conditions in place before taking over the community of Sophia from the Central Housing and Planning Authority. Chief among the council's requirements is for the residents to start paying taxes. We get more details from Tracy Romalo.
There is a move by the central government to hand over the community of Sophia to the Georgetown Mayor and City Council. During Monday's statutory meeting, this plan was discussed when Deputy Mayor Akim Peters said the regularization and handing over of Sophia is necessary. According to Peters, the move will help to serve the developmental needs of the community.
And yes, we are spending in excess of $9 million on both constituencies, both 5 and 6. And these communities are not yet handed over to the Mayor and City Council. So, Madam Mayor, I would like to ask if anything can be done from the end of Council to Central Housing and Planning Authority to hasten the process.
Responding to Peters, Mayor Patricia Chase Green said the council will have to first consult with the residents of Sophia before such a process can be undertaken. Supporting the mayor's position was Town Clerk Royston King, who said that council does not have the wherewithal to manage such a large community and suggested that the process be done in phases.
As soon as that matter that community is handed over to the council, every single resident is going to be looking to the council for garbage collection, lighting, drainage, and every single core service that we offer to be given to them. It has to be done in a manner that valuation is done for every property, and so they can start paying taxes.
Meanwhile, the town clerk has suggested a comprehensive plan to address squatting in several wards of the city.
And we have a problem with the free flow of wastewater in these canals. So I'm really asking your worship to, if we can have some dialogue, the Central Housing and Planning Authority, to see what can be done as it relates to squatting generally.
Tracy Romalo for NCN News.
Now, the Berbice Association of African Groups is planning a mega celebration for emancipation this year. Under the theme Union on the Move, the celebration is to focus on inclusivity, economics, and innovation. Roy Abrams reports.
A packed cultural program is on the calendar of activities being planned for the emancipation celebration in Berbice. The celebration will kick off from number 50 village with a freedom walk by members of the 13 groups that make up the Berbice Association of African Groups. The walk will culminate at the number 53 sports complex, where President David Granger and other government officials are expected to be in attendance. At the sports complex, an exhibition will be mounted featuring over 40 booths displaying the African culture, traditions, food, and clothing, among others. Chairman of the local organizing committee, Kirk Fraser, says this year's celebration will focus on inclusivity, economics, innovation, and progression.
We are going in a direction whereby emancipation would have paved the way for a brighter Guyana, a new Guyana. So as a result of emancipation, all the other ethnic groups we think should be part of our emancipation celebration. Reason being, if it was not for emancipation, the other ethnic groups would not have been in Guyana. So we are asking the other ethnic groups to participate in Emancipation Celebration 2018.
Fraser added that the reason for inclusivity is because emancipation is the pillar that allows for freedom for all in Guyana. Meanwhile, member of the Berbice Association of African Groups, Candace McGregor, elaborated on some of the other activities planned for Emancipation Day.
It will be fun for the entire family with events like a cultural reception, showcasing the beauty, talents, and intelligence of youths in Region 6. Live cooking challenge of the premier African dish, that is metenji, storytelling, a fashion display that is of African head and body wraps, competitive fun and games, African drumming exhibition and competition.
This This newscast was told that ahead of the big celebration, a film festival will be held to showcase local films depicting the struggles of emancipation. The film festival will be followed by a book fair. Reporting for the NCN News, I am Ryan Abrams.
Welcome to the Diamond Mineral Water NCN Sports News. I am Tristan Joseph. Now for the news. Guyana won its first medal at the 2018 Central American and Caribbean Games underway in Colombia. It was bronze when the women's doubles squash team lost to Colombia 2-0 in their semi-final match. At the CAC Games, the losing semi-finalists are awarded the bronze medal. The Cayman Islands are the other bronze medalists. Mexico went on to defeat Colombia for the gold. Action in squash now switched to team play, with the Guyanese men already defeating Panama 3-0 earlier in the day, while the women lost to Barbados 2-1. Switching to field hockey, the Guyanese women lost their second match to Mexico 2-0, while the men will face Guatemala on Wednesday at 1400 hours. Table tennis and taekwondo have completed its events at the games, with our locals coming up empty-handed. Now, on Saturday, the country's tertiary athletes showed their pedigree, with a few making the major difference for the University of Guyana as they cruised an emphatic victory in the National College Athletics Championships at the National Track and Field Center, Lenora. Led by the legs of Ruth Samagon, Emmanuel Archibald, Osafo dos Santos, and Owen Adonis, the nation's top university showed that they have the chops on the track by winning the Bridge Paris North National College Championships by more than 200 points. A distant second place was Lenora Technical Institute and Vocational Institute, with Sophia Training Center third. However, it was 10 individual performances that really turned heads as Ruth Samagon ruled the roost with a sprint triple. Samagun took the 100-meter dash ahead of Tonya Rollins, and Kim Chan then followed that up with a victory over Rollins again in the 200 meters. The sprinter then cruised to a victory in the women's 400 meters to complete her hat-trick of victories.
It was good competition and good race. I mean, I didn't think I executed it well. My side was poor, but surprisingly it was a PB, so I'm just excited and happy for that.
Emmanuel Archibald performed outstanding, claiming the 200 meters gold in 21.49 seconds ahead of his teammate Daniel Williams and Owen Adonis in a clean sweep. Adonis took the 100 meters gold in the race as well. Archibald returned, however, to win the long jump top prize with an impressive 8.07 meters, which was a national record equaling jump. Carl Williams finished second and Renardo Green third.
Performance today was good, and just came out and execute as my coach has telling me during the week, just especially for the 200, just come off the turn and go home easy, make sure you just win. Prepare me for CAC next week.
Arenti Chance also looked good in the 400 meters finals to give University of Guyana another victory in 47.13 seconds, with Lorindo Prince second and Dante Tom third.
I was just happy that I was able to execute the race the way I was training for it, and it wasn't as comfortable as I wanted it to be, but nonetheless I'm happy for the victory. The goal is to go pro, so the more races that I run, the more opportunities I would get to better my times. Once my times get better, it only means that I could go to other competitions, whether regionally or internationally, compete with known persons, and try to get into a professional contract.
Harvey Daniel was superb over the long distances, winning 1,500 and 5,000 meters comfortably on both occasions. His counterpart Tamara Charles also battled it out with Renita Pedro for the 15 and 3,000 meters events, with Charles giving UG both wins. Pedro took silver on both occasions. Chantal Bright also brought sunshine to the track, following up her bronze in the 200-meter final with a goal in the high, long and triple jump events. Other winners included Cindy Fraser, Delina Clark, Tariq Boyce, Michaela Skeet and Kadeem Peters. 12 institutions took part in the championships. Vivian Vicious Harris is back with a win, this time claiming the vacant American Boxing Federation Continental America's Super Lightweight title. Harris defeated DeMarcus Corley by unanimous decision on Saturday at the FedEx Forum in Memphis, USA, for his first win since 2014. Harris had lost his last 3 bouts before the win, his most recent to Corley. Nevertheless, the win for the 40-year-old could definitely be a sign of things to come for Harris. Some of Guyana's budding cricketers were given the opportunity to boost their growth in the game as Digicel hosted the Caribbean Premier League Youth Series at the Georgetown Cricket Club. Eric Collymore reports. Telecommunication giants Digicel continues to showcase their support of cricket as young students benefited from a summer camp held recently at the Guyana Cricket Club. The initiative is part of Digicel's Caribbean Premier League Youth Series, which saw 80 students taking part in the event, facilitated by West Indies leg spinner Devendra Bishu and other coaches. Bishu, who is currently part of the West Indies team taking on Bangladesh, said he was eager to play his part in the program.
Always an honor to spend the time with the little kids, and I would like to say thanks to Digicel and CPL for this opportunity. I always love spending time with the kids.
Digicel Communications Officer Vidya Sanchara noted that the company is always willing to throw its support towards youth development.
And we know that cricket is something that does that. It brings the community and the youth together, both internationally, regionally, and at the community level. This is our grassroots way of giving back. This is just our way of cementing our place with cricket, youth and development, and saying that we're around for a while as it relates to cricket and CPL.
The annual event is part of Digicel's effort to enhance the level of grassroots cricket by giving the young cricketers the opportunity to interact with some of the local stars in West Indies cricket. In the meantime, the senior Windies men seek to level the three-match one-day series against Bangladesh on Wednesday at the Providence Stadium. The day-night fixture is set for 14 hours 30. The Windies lost by 48 runs on Sunday. Meanwhile, the National Street Football Championship, the Guinness Greatest of the Street Challenge, is set to kick off on Friday at the Port Ryan Tarmac, West Bank Demerara. Travis Seymour reports.
The opening night of the Guinness Greatest of the Street National Playoff will see exciting football action among the teams set to participate for the national title, money and bragging rights. From Port Ryan, the tournament moves to Haslington Tarmac, East Coast Demerara on August 1, before the final showdown set for August 4 at the National Stadium. The 9th edition of the tournament is said to be the biggest, with 16 of the strongest teams in the format set to vie for $500,000 prize money. Sparta Boss is the tournament's most successful side, having dominated the national playoffs and Georgetown leg. They will seek redemption, having lost their Georgetown title to West Front Road Goalless Money, who are no strangers to the winners' row, with the likes of the Pedro Clan and Randolph Wagner. Other top teams set to compete are Back Circle, Lepo Street and Tiger Bay. Meanwhile, last year's champion out of Linden, Davis Linden's All-Stars will hope to demonstrate that they are here to stay with a successful defense of their crown. The opening clash will pit West Side Ballers against Silver Bullets, then ESPN take on Barticus Disconnection Crew. The champs will open their campaign against Lepo Street. Showstoppers then headline the evening with their matchup against Lepo Street. Other matches include ESPN versus West Side Ballers. Swag Entertainment then play champs Davis Leaners, with games set to kick off at 19 hours. Travis Seymour for NCN Sport.
In cycling, Raw Leal and Jamal John are set to defend respective cycling titles at two events over the next week. Both events have been organized by Cycling Federation Racing Secretary Hassan Mohammed.
On August 4, the 15th edition of the 7C11 race cycling program sponsored by Massa is going down at the National Park in a circuit. Raul Leal, who was the top rider last year, will look to reclaim his title against the likes of Romulo Crawford, Jamal John, Michael Anthony, and Alonso Ambrose, among others. Leal will defend his title in the 35-lap Schoolboys Invitational against the top cyclists in the senior category. The juvenile race will go around the park 10 times, with Nigel Duguid aiming to defend his title, with Eon Jackson set to reclaim his veterans on the 55-lap race. Last year's mountain bike winner was Nigel Jacobs, and he will need to up his game to retain his title. Meanwhile, on Sunday, the 14th stage of the Regan Rodriguez Memorial 46-mile road race will take place. The race, sponsored by Rickson Saris Agro Industries, is a sought-after event on the Guyana Cycling Federation calendar. The race will pedal off from Schoonard on the West Bank near the Harbour Bridge to Bushy Park and back to the point of origin. Last year's winner Jamal John, who won the event in 1 hour, 56 minutes and 48.59 seconds, will be hard-pressed to defend his crown against the like of Diraj Gibran, Warren McKay, Paul Denobberger, Andrew Hicks, Curtis Day, and Marcus Taylor, among others. In addition, Brighton John will need to pull out all the stops against a high-quality junior class that includes Christopher Griffith. Eon Jackson's defending veterans champion, with Talim Shaw winning the mountain bike category the last time the race was staged. Ricky Rodriguez is a former champion motor race and cyclist, as well as former president of the Guyana Cycling Federation. The family of Rodriguez is expected to present prizes to the winners. Travis Seymour for NCN Sport.
With that, we've come to the end of another edition of the NCN News. But before we go, here's a recap of the top stories. Police say 3 of the 5 men killed this morning had criminal records. UG to form petroleum consortium with technical institutes. Grenade says Guyana will not criminalize immigrants. And in sport, Guyana earned bronze in CAC